Good morning, good afternoon. This is Mr. Nazaire here with a NJFM review. Our first one actually covering the movie Wonder Woman. Just to kind of put a background on what we're doing here, it's spoiler free. You're not going to catch anything that will give away any key parts of the movie, but just want to let you know this is catered to those who would just like to know more about the movie before they actually get into it, in case they're interested. So just a little background on Wonder Woman herself. She debuted back in the 1940s, DC Comics, of course, and she's been hanging with the Trinity, which would be Superman and Batman. She's actually a staple of DC Comics, and even though she's been in different, animated features like the Justice League, her theatrical debut was actually with Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, which is a topic for a whole other day. But she finally gets her own movie, and I'm just going to be discussing, things that I caught from it, and then we can just go from there. So I wanted to kick it off by talking about the themes and the tone of the film itself. One of the first things I noticed was basically when it comes to Wonder Woman, whose name is Diana Prince in the movie. Um, she is definitely, in many ways, an optimist. Starting off on the island, she grows up with these Amazons. Very positive view of the world. She's really high on duty, doing the right thing. And once elements of the real world, the outside world, come into her world, slowly but surely she gets an idea of what the world is really about. And I think the movie did a great job of actually, bringing her to our level. I mean, it's one thing to be a hero, but blind optimism really doesn't go too far. One of the greatest things about this movie, in my opinion, was the mythology aspect. I'm actually a big fan of, Greek mythology. So to see it the way it was displayed in this movie was, they did a pretty good job. Um, some of my favorite parts of the movie itself was the actual opening scenes on the island. I thought for a DC film especially, it was actually very, very well done. It was very bright, very inviting. Um, One thing I wish is that they could actually show more of that because it feels, without giving too much away, that there was basically a snippet of that, and then it went straight into the whole World War I setting where this movie takes place, and visually it gets a bit grittier. I mean, granted, they go from this island, fictional island, so I think, to London, and then of course to areas where they fought during World War I. So it's understandable that visually it gets a bit darker, but personally, I wish I could see more of the island and some of the characters from there. As far as Wonder Woman herself, we definitely get a fish out of water feel for her. Seeing how, she grew up with these, monumental figures, and to see her go into our world, at least the world during the era of the World War I, was it was pretty good for the movie. There was definitely Christopher Reeve level Superman vibes, and some were more obvious than others, but you definitely got that feel for her, just kind of being herself in the real world setting. Which actually leads me to my next point: the supporting cast. Um, so Gal Gadot, who actually plays Wonder Woman, she does a great job. She definitely holds this movie, but it doesn't really take away from the fact that the supporting cast, they can hang as well. You got Chris Pine, who's basically the main supporting character. Stephen Trevor, he's actually someone from the outside world that comes in who actually, basically guides Diana through what's going on. And what I thought the movie did a great job with was the whole flip on the fish out of water. Initially he goes to this fictional world where there's, these warriors and things like that. He doesn't know what's going on. Fast forward X amount of minutes later, you see Diana going through the same things. As far as everyone else in the cast, without pointing out the villains in this movie, I thought they were okay, but it's easy to say that Gal Gadot and Chris Pine were the main focus of the movie. So I think they did a great job keeping it going forward. So, just to address the elephant in the room, I've got to talk about this movie in relation to the DC Extended Universe as well as the Marvel Cinematic Universe. For the longest time, I've seen people talking about how this movie is a bit too similar to movies like Captain America, First Avenger, Thor, the original Superman. And without getting too into it, what I can say is, at least the one that holds the most, I would say, is Captain America, First Avenger. But if you look at both movies, you have an origin story that takes place during a world war. And in my opinion, the comparison stopped there. Um, I think Wonder Woman has the movie itself has its own tone where you know she has her own story. Granted, they have similarities as far as her optimism and things like that, but it's a movie on its own. As far as a Thor comparison, I'm guessing the whole demigod and things like that. But honestly, this movie really does hold its own weight. And I guess that third point would be the original Superman, the Donner films with Christopher Reeve, of course. There's definitely those kind of vibes, but the director herself actually said they were intentional. But again, it doesn't take away from the movie too much. If I had any issues or gripes with the movie, it would be the pacing. Um, I believe the movie's over 2 hours, and there's times where you feel it. Um, Without giving too much away, I would say there's about 4 or 5 genuine action scenes, and between those scenes, there's times where you may catch yourself looking at your watch, try to check out your phone, things like that. But one thing I can say, when they actually play the theme that was introduced, Wonder Woman's theme that was introduced in Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, that's basically your cue when the action scenes come. And when they come, it's definitely worth the wait. Most of these movies tend to have issues as far as the third act is concerned. But throughout the movie, as far as the action scenes that are placed, seeing what she can do, most of the stuff that you've seen in the trailers, it's actually I thought it was very well done, um, and it's definitely worth the price of admission. As far as my final verdict, I will give this movie an A minus. It's not a perfect movie by any means, but it's definitely enjoyable. I would definitely say you'll get more out of it watching it the second time around because one, you kind of get what's going on, but two, you can take time to really appreciate the build up to see Diana come from this very optimistic, person to the well rounded warrior that she is in the present time. One thing I will say though, knowing that this takes place during World War I and we see her during the present day in Batman vs Superman, there really isn't that much of a sense of danger as far as what's going to happen to her. But having said that, the movie still does a great job as far as establishing her origins and why, in my opinion, she's essential for having her own movie because she looks like to be the heart of the DC Extended Universe. I'm a big Batman fan, but I will say this: between Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman, you look at these two characters, they don't really carry the emotional weight that I believe Wonder Woman can moving forward with the Justice League and other movies to come. Now that we get her background and see like who she is and why she does what she does, um, seeing movies like Justice League, which will come out this November, we can appreciate why she's even there. So again, final verdict A minus. I thought DC did a good job of dropping this movie. It was again, not to compare apples to oranges, but Marvel, they've been doing their cinematic universe for, uh, wow, a long time. 2008, I believe, with Iron Man. You have characters like Scarlet Widow, Black Widow, whatever her name is, never had a solo film. You have your properties that have She-Hulk, never had a film. So I definitely feel as though Wonder Woman has broke some barriers, kicked some doors down, literally. You'll see that in the movie and it pays off. And I'm looking forward to see what else is to come. So that is the review for Wonder Woman. If you liked what you heard, please let me know. Comment, subscribe, whichever, and there'll be more to come. Thank you. This is Mr. Nazare with NJFM Reviews.